Hey, I'm Steve from Jackson Interfaith Shelter, and today on the podcast we have Calvin and Dania from the Jackson District Library Carnegie branch right here downtown. And Calvin works as the Adult Services Coordinator at the library, and Dania is a librarian assistant within the Adult Services. So thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
So starting out, maybe just each of you take a couple minutes and just say, how did you kind of start working at the library, a little bit about your past, and a little bit about what you enjoy within the work that you do.
You want to go first?
Sure, yeah. So I never really considered library work. I had just come across the advertisement for the position that I started in, but I've always had a strong belief in building communities sort of from the ground up and making sure that everyone in the community has access to at least the most basic resources that they need. And so once I heard about some of the stuff that the library does, like the expungement programs and all the other services that we offer, it was like it clicked pretty quickly for me. I was really excited to get started, and I knew pretty immediately upon starting that this was going to be work that I was going to enjoy.
That's great.
My story is a little bit more circuitous than that. I graduated college from MSU, sadly, from what happened earlier this week, with an English degree, which how not very useful, I would say, in the real world. So I was kind of looking around to find, a career, and I began. All the women in on my mom's side of the family are teachers, and so I started substitute teaching to just fill the time, make a little bit of money, make sure I wasn't, laying on the couch all day every day. And this was back when they actually had librarians in the schools. The librarian at my mom's school happened to be my ex-neighbor, so someone I grew up with. And unfortunately, she turned out fine, but she got cancer and was going to have to be off for the last quarter of the year. And so she contacted me and was like, hey, do you want to just work at the library for the rest of the year? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah, sure. That sounds great. And I realized very quickly, I really, really enjoyed it, much more so than being a teacher. I enjoyed being a teacher. I didn't enjoy all of the bureaucracy, frankly, that goes along with it. Yeah. And so I got done with that school year, went to Wayne State and got my library science degree, and came back to Jackson and started working here. I've had 3 different jobs at JDL. I started out at Parkside. JDL and JPS have a partnership where we provide librarians for their schools.
Okay.
And so I started out as the Parkside librarian. It was closed. They just dumped desks and stuff in there when I started, and I got it all started up. And now if you go in there, they've invested a bunch of money into it. They have I got a friend of mine to donate some cafe tables, like the ones you guys have downstairs, like the booths for kids to hang out in. And so they've created a space for kids to hang out during lunchtime. They have tablets that the kids can use. It was really awesome experience. And then I came over to Carnegie and you worked with youth services for a couple of years. And then I've been at this job for almost 6 years, 5.5 years now at this point.
Yeah, thanks. So within adult services, kind of what does that encompass? And I'll preface too, so a lot of times on this podcast, we'll specifically bring people in that partner in the kind of work that we do here at the shelter, because it's, it's the whole community working together. And sometimes people think, oh, there's a homeless shelter, so anything to do with homelessness, poverty, insecurity, food insecurity, a homeless shelter must do that, where we actually are just a fraction of the pie. And there's so many places that work together, and the library's just been an incredible partner for us, and thankfully we're right down the road, and we reference our clients to go to you all the time because of the services you provide that I think a lot in our community wouldn't realize that a library, has the type of services broadly that are targeted for those that are struggling in our community. So hit a little on what does adult services entail, and even in you choosing to do the job, you said that's actually kind of what drew you to wanting to work at JDL.
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of think of our job as split up in a couple of different categories. So we sort of have the reference side of things, which is, everything from people coming in with questions about their genealogy, or even something as simple as how do I use a computer? We do a lot of work for that, technological literacy and such. So that's kind of one aspect of it. And the other aspect of it, from the way I see it, is sort of our community engagement, giving people access to the resources that they might not be familiar with within the community. Obviously, the Interfaith Shelter is one of those resources. When somebody comes into us and they say, this is my problem, this is what I need, we like to be the place that has the answer, that can say, like, you can go here, you can go here, there's this program, or have you heard about this? And so that's kind of how I think of my job.
And as people come in, I mean, what are some of the consistent needs that people are, saying they have, that you're needing to reference them for other resources?
Sure. So, well, it's tax season, so we get a lot of that. I think one thing that a lot of people are surprised about when they come in, printing is a big thing. Everybody needs documents, legal forms, tax forms, and I think a lot of people don't realize that we offer that for free. Like, as far as we're concerned, legal documents are something that people need for a reason, and so we just want to make sure that people are able to get that stuff, because you go to some of like the box office stores or whatever, and the prices just to print off a couple pieces of paper can be pretty astronomical, and for a lot of people that's a barrier to getting the services that they need. So I'd say just like that, tax forms, legal documents. We also work with the Michigan Legal Help website a lot, which is a really great resource that allows people to kind of go step by step through legal processes, divorce, adoption,
PPO.
Yeah, just a whole bunch of different legal subjects that they can kind of go through step by step and get the forms that they need, and sort of start that process.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things is the Michigan Legal Help Center stuff. That was created by Legal Services, which we have legal services here in town. What they found out was they were spending an inordinate amount of time filling out forms correctly for people, because you might not know this, but if you walk into the courthouse with a form that's not filled out correctly, they'll turn you away, and then they can't tell you why they're turning you away, because that's providing legal advice, and they can't provide legal advice. So that's a super frustrating process. Right. We all have so much capacity for things, and if you think that you did it right and you go in and turn it in and they're like, no, and they don't tell you, I totally understand throwing your hands in the air, ripping it up, and never dealing with it again. Right? Huh. And so that website, basically you just answer the questions that are on the form, and it fills the form out exactly the way it's supposed to be filled out. And that's incredibly helpful. And so that's one of my favorite things. And we are a Michigan Legal Help Center. Okay. So we're the only place in Jackson that we have a dedicated computer for it. My entire staff is trained how to use that website, and it is incredibly, incredibly helpful for people. I mean, we probably get 5 to 10 a day, people coming in to use that website. They'll come in with a card that says Michigan Legal Help, and they'll say, they were giving me this at court, can you help me? And we just get them started, and it is such an easy process. You would think that it would be a complicated process. I'm literally just typing my name in, and it's perfect. So that's a really, really great thing that we do. I just want to add one other thing to what Nia said. Like, we have all sorts of important social service type things that we offer, but you can just come down and rent a movie. Right. You know what I mean? You can come down and rent a video game. You can borrow ebooks. You can borrow things for your tablet. You can borrow a book. We still offer all the entertainment options, but we also do these other things too. Right. So if you just want to come in and get a movie, you just want to come in and find some quiet space. Right. All of that is still happening, still available. Things that libraries. Yes. We've just expanded what we see, where the library falls into how the community works. Yep. Basically, is the way I look at it.
And I'll do a plug. So I have Hoopla now, which I've heard that Overdrive's even better than that, but it's an app that the library has. Yeah. And it's basically like a free Netflix. So you can, music, movies, TV shows are on there for free, just with your free library card. So I'm already so cheap that I have my brother's Netflix account and a friend's Amazon. Without those, I just wouldn't have either, because I don't care to watch that much TV. So if those ever go away, Hoopla is my go-to for all those. And I love audiobooks too. And so with that, even if there's one you don't have, you can request that they purchase it. And so I do that quite often. And then usually pretty quickly, I'll get an email that says, your audiobook's here, and I'm not paying to get audiobooks. And my taxes are already paying for it. So it just makes sense.
Absolutely.
So free commercial. I've liked it.
I like it.
So how do people typically find out about these services? Because there's several that you just rattled off that I wasn't even aware of, some of the ones that you were doing. So, is there through, is United Way, or is the 211 email blast, or, people that might come to a community that don't realize that you offer expungement and all that kind of stuff? How are people learning about these extra important services that you do have?
It's really twofold. We have a marketing department, and they have a Facebook page, and they have an Instagram account, and they have a Twitter page, and they'll sporadically talk about these things. But I think the bigger thing is just partnering with people in the community, making sure that we know what people are doing, and in return they know what we're doing, and so that we're making sure that we, like Nia said at the beginning, one of the most important things for me is making sure that if someone comes to us with a problem, we know the right person to send them to.
Right.
And the other half of that is us being the right person to be sent to.
Yeah.
And so we're working with legal services, or we're working with United Way, or with Interfaith, or whoever it may be. We make sure that we know what they're doing, but we make sure that they also know what we're doing.
Right.
And it's a little bit of a non-answer, but you really can't underestimate the power of word of mouth. I can't even say how many people we started offering headphones for people that needed them, and then within a couple of weeks, people come in, I heard you got headphones here, and so word travels fast when you're doing something that people find useful.
You still got those headphones?
We do.
I'm coming over. Headphones. I'm putting that.
Your people know
too.
all about them, for sure.
They didn't tell me.
And I think a really great example of that. So Nia mentioned expungement. And that actually got started 4 or 5 years ago, right after the law changed.
And say what expungement is.
Expungement.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, no problem. Expungement is the process of getting crimes removed from your criminal record. So say that you go to get a job and they run your iChat, and
10 years ago.
10 years ago, 20. I mean, I've talked to people. It was 40 years ago. They had something that happened when they were 18, and now they're 68, right. And they can't get a driver's license as a result of it. Yeah. And or get housing, or get a good job, or whatever it may be. And so there's an official process for going through that. We had like a expungement fair at Michigan Works on a Saturday, and we had 20-ish people show up, which is great. 20 people, that's amazing. That was like beginning of summer. End of summer, we had another one, and we had 182 people or something like that show up.
Word of mouth.
Yes, word of mouth. We didn't do anything differently.
Jeez.
It was like it literally just people's social influential circles, I think is what they call them. Yeah. Spheres of influence. That's what I'm looking for. They shared it, and it just got passed along, and it took 3 months, and it was just, and that's when we realized we can't do this every 3 months. We just need to have this available to people all the time. Yeah. And so now you come in, we walk you through the process. We're partnered with Michigan Works that we can help defray some of those costs, because there's costs associated with it.
Right.
Before we were working with the Community Foundation, they gave us a grant to defer those costs, but we ran out of money for that. Okay. Now Michigan Works is providing some of that money. So really, that, and our waiting list for that is consistently 10 to 20 people. Okay. Like every single time we're like, we have no one left. It's like someone else talked about it somewhere, right, and it got passed around, and 10 more people are calling it.
And I'm guessing there's some specific parameters where amount of time, and whether it's a felony or misdemeanor, and the
amount. It's basically
the crime.
The type of crime. There are certain crimes that are not expungible. So you're not going to get murder taken off, for example. The number of times. So you can have, like, if you have 2 felonies, it's going to be different than if you have 4 felonies. That kind of thing. And then the amount of time. Okay. So, but if you're more than 7 years removed, and you don't have a crime that doesn't fit it, you're going to qualify, basically. And there are some things that are very straightforward, like marijuana. Like, you don't even have to do anything. You just have to fill out one form, send it to the courthouse, and they will take it off your record. Because of the change in marijuana laws recently, they didn't, they wanted that to make that really easy for people. Right. And rightfully so.
Yeah. And then JDL, Jackson District Library, has a lot of different branches. Are these services available at the Parma branch and the Spring Arbor branch and those things, or is it mainly the Carnegie branch as your main hub where this is possible?
I mean, if you had questions about those things, you could show up at any branch
Mhm.
and they could either answer your questions or refer them to us.
Okay.
But for the most part, we work out of the Carnegie branch.
Yeah.
So if you need, if we're working with you through the process, it's going to happen at Carnegie.
Okay, that's helpful to know.
Yep.
What are some of, I guess, just, as you have people come in, you're probably hearing some heavy stories and interacting with some, difficult things. So I guess what are, in an ideal world, what are, some of the things that maybe aren't available now that you, personally as a library hope to have years down the road, or as a community,
It's a really good
some
question.
gaps that we have. And then on the flip side of that, what are just, any encouraging stories that come to mind as you've been able to help somebody, or so I'd love to kind of hear anything that comes to mind for either of those.
Why don't you start?
Okay, I can start. I'm happy to. Yeah, that's totally fine. I mean, I think this directly is talking about what you guys are doing here. There's been an increase, especially this past winter when it was really cold, of like you hear some really sad stories of homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
We've had at least one or two of our regular patrons ended up passing away.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it was hard. Like that's hard to hear, and that stinks. But with that said, the opposite side of that question, like you guys are doing amazing things here. Aware Shelter is doing amazing things there. Home of New Vision is doing amazing things there. The city council has done a really good job of recognizing that this is an issue and putting money towards it.
Mm-hmm.
We have after I think it was December-ish, city council passed some resolutions to add money to make hotel rooms available and short-term housing available for people. And we heard about it. One of our people who works for us is actually on the city council, Will Forgrave.
Right. Yep.
And so like he came back that day and was like, hey, here's some resources that they just said that they're making available. And so it's really great to see, like, yes, these things are happening, and I don't mean to like diminish what did happen, but like people are clearly seeing what's happening, and the people who need to make decisions are trying to fix the problem. And I think that that's wonderful. I think that that's very, very encouraging. And I don't, I'm a Jackson person. I grew up here. I went away to college, but came back here. That I don't think that was always the case. I think that the people we have, city council, mayor, and people who lead these organizations, people like Ken Toll, who's not at United Way anymore, but he was the head of United Way, Toby Berry over at CAA, Zoe at DHHS, like the people who are leading these organizations, Sarah Tackett at JDL until she retired, really do, like, this is a focus and they care.
Yep.
And I'm not sure that was always the case. And that's super, super, like, uplifting to me.
That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, so not to piggyback too much on what Calvin said, but when the thing passed with the city council that did that emergency housing, that was a time where we saw a lot of like really fulfilling stories from people. Like you could just see and feel like the gratitude that there was something as solid as that available to them, especially when we had those really bad storms around Christmas and stuff. As far as like stuff I'd like to see more of, I don't know if I have anything super specific, but I think that we always can kind of strengthen and expand little by little the programs that we already have. So we've been working on like some kits to kind of make it easy for people from different like marginalized groups or people that might need a very specific type of help. Which includes, unhoused persons, but also includes like returning citizens, perhaps like new parents or pregnant persons. Those are things that we would just like to have like really good, efficient targeting and be able to help as much as possible. And I can, nothing moves fast in this world, but like it's something that we're always kind of working towards. And so eventually we'll be able to look back and smile the same way as we look back at what the library was, 10 years ago and look at how far we've come. So.
That's great. Are there any, and how long have you both been at the library?
10 plus years at this point.
I actually just started in August.
Okay.
I've only been with adult services since December.
I was going to say last year, yeah.
And I already had you be a spokesperson. You must already be an expert. Are there any, I guess, trends, more maybe for you that you've seen over your 10 years of like the needs that are coming in? Are there, folks that are more from a certain type of thing going on, or is there more drug use that has been a driver, or is there struggle
So
to find housing, or probably a mix of everything, but just any
I think
things you've
kind
seen?
of a step even kind of farther back than that. I think the biggest trend that I have seen at JDL, and also like as a library, as a profession, is the understanding of where we fit, what we are. I think for a long time, people associated libraries, and probably rightfully so, with books and education and quiet and
Right.
like what I imagined as a kid. When you think of library, it's like shh, that kind of thing.
The lady shushing you
Yes,
as
yeah,
the
yeah,
takes
yeah,
off
with the
her
glasses on and the and
Yeah.
someone quietly shelving books and all that stuff. I think, especially at JDL, but I think as the library profession as a whole, I think that we have transitioned to. We still provide all of those things, and we're happy to provide all of those things, and people need those things. But we've also looked at how we fit into our communities and what we can do that still fits the library as a whole, libraries as a whole mission of providing access to information and not censoring things for people and doing all of those things. How can we take those sort of ideals and apply them differently so that it's not just a place for books where you sit quietly and read? And so I think that we have done a really, really good job at JDL of becoming more than that. And I see my job as um, a good portion of being, I'm not sure the right profession, but social worker, community liaison, that kind of thing. And that's something that I'm really proud of. That's where I feel like the library profession is going as a whole, and I'm really proud to be able to take part in that.
That's great. I guess kind of as we start wrapping up, are there any just kind of other things that stand out, or even notes that you had, or things that you would want the community to be aware of that we haven't hit on yet?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that stuff.
Yeah.
So, kind of just to reiterate kind of the overall point that we've made about how many things you can do at the library, or that the library can do for you, that most people aren't aware of. One, we're always happy to listen to people when they have suggestions for us and try to improve the things we do, bring new activities into the library. But we have a whole host of amazing programs that we host throughout the year, and those vary from like educational things like help with FAFSA for like fresh college students. There's an African American genealogy thing that's being hosted by Lori Perkins within, I think, this month.
Yeah.
She was here last week, and the Genealogical Society is coming next week to kind of follow up with what they learned at the last one.
That's
Yeah,
great.
there's programs for like learning how to garden with limited space. We have access to like academic materials for like college students or people that need that sort of peer-reviewed stuff. There's just so many things, and if you thinking like I really would like to see this in my community, come in and stop and talk to us, because chances are we might have it.
Okay. So I've got an idea for you.
Mhm.
So we had a client listening session yesterday. So we kind of had some folks that are staying here at the shelter just to say what's going well, but what are ways that we can improve.
Mhm.
And one of the things that came up is they'd like to see a hot tub.
So I would like to see a hot tub at the library too.
Yeah, we haven't been able to get a grant for that, but so if you could make that happen, and I think the word of mouth, more people would come. They would sit in there. They would read books. They would do things in the hot tub. Maybe other things would happen in the hot tub too.
Sure,
But
yeah, sure, that's great.
anyway, so that was yesterday. We got that feedback.
Yeah, I
So
love
for what
that.
it's worth,
I love that.
there you have it. Yeah, I guess in anything else, seriously, I just took that off a silly path, but
Yeah, there's a couple other things that I just want to make sure that get mentioned. We talked about expungement. That is a service that you can stop in or call at any time, and we will begin the process with you, and we walk you through all the steps. We make sure we label the envelopes, we send them, we help you send them off. We really make sure that by the end of it, you have everything you need. You have your court date set, and now you're just waiting. We're soon to relaunch a service that we call adult literacy. So if you're an adult and you're struggling with reading, you can sign up for this program, and it's a direct one-on-one service. So we train people to become tutors through a place called Washtenaw Literacy, who's been doing that for 35 years or whatever it's been. And they work one-on-one 1 day a week, up to the tutor and the learner when they meet, where they meet. We actually have laptops and hotspots available. So if you're like, I really can't, I got kids at home, I get out of work, I got to go straight home, cook dinner, do all these things. I have one 45-minute period a week and I can't travel for it.
Right.
You can get a hotspot and a laptop and you can meet virtually over Zoom and do those things. It is entirely learner dependent or learner driven. So like if you want to learn how to read so that you can read with your grandkid, that's your goal. Mm-hmm. If you want to be able to do this so you can get a job, that's your goal. And everybody's working to their own individual goal. There's no like collective goal where it's like you should be reading at a 4th grade reading level by the end.
Right.
That's not our goal. It's like, what do you want to do? Let's help you get to that. And part of that is if you're part of the care hub, which a lot of, the hospital and all these things that the regular doctors, you'll meet and they'll ask you to fill out a questionnaire. One of those questions is something along the lines of like, do you struggle reading important documents? And if they say yes to that, then they get referred to us. Okay. So that we can then reach out to them and say, oh, is this something you'd like to work on? If so, here, let's sign you up for adult literacy. So that's another big one that we're kind of re-kicking off. There were some issues getting it organized, and we learned a lot. So we're applying all the things that we learned that historically didn't work great before, and I feel pretty confident that going forward it'll be a much more robust service than it was the last couple of years. We also, we host people all the time. Like we have a coffee hour that people from Lifeways were coming to. Some of that, Wednesdays at 10:30.
All right.
Wednesdays at 10:30.
What kind of coffee we talk? Is this Maxwell House?
Yeah, it's just Maxwell House.
Oh, right.
It's not anything good. That is slowing down because they have other places that they need to be, but they'll still be coming, maybe once a month. Maybe a little bit more during the summer, because another thing that we do is we offer lunches for kids. So we're part of the Eat Up and Meet Up, where if you're a kid, you live in Jackson County, you're under 18, you can come to the library Monday through Friday, noon to 1, get free lunch. Okay. And anybody that's age, and so they'll come down for that for an hour once a month, to talk to people there. So there's really all sorts of things. If you have a question, I would recommend stopping in and just asking, because we might offer something, and if we don't, I hope that we will know who is the one who's offering something like that. And I really am proud of the fact that it feels like, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Nia, but it feels like for a lot of people, we're the first destination. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I think, see the library as like, I don't know an answer. Yeah. I'm going to go down to the library because somebody at the library will know the answer. Yeah. And I'm very proud of that. And I take pride in providing things for those people, and also knowing if we can't, where are we sending you? Yeah. And I think that's pretty cool.
Well, thanks for what both of you do. I know I've learned a lot of things that I wasn't even quite aware of. I knew there's a lot of things you do, which is why we're here talking anyway, but I'm excited to continue to partner. And thanks for not only what you do, but the heart behind it. It's cool knowing that you actually have a passion for this. It's more than just a job. You see the faces, you meet the people, and that you're trying to be creative to continually evolve the services. So it's a pleasure partnering with you, and look forward to continuing to figure out how we can serve the community better. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much.